Hey, good morning. Welcome to Investco. How may I help you?
I'm looking to purchase some bonds. I've been thinking about it for quite some time, and now I'm ready to invest.
Bonds? Are you serious? Don't you know that they're very risky investments? You'll lose everything. But hey, who am I to judge? Let me get started on the paperwork, and you'll lose your money in no time.
Gee, I had no idea. This isn't exactly the response I was expecting, but thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Be sure to tell all your friends. Have a nice day.
Hey, what are you doing at my desk?
Results of your recent investments. Line 1 will see your assets minus your liabilities, which of course is your balance sheet. Number 2, excuse me, can I help you?
I seriously doubt that, but I can help your customer here.
Really? How's that?
Tell me, what are you buying?
Bonds.
Bonds? You like to live your financial life on the edge. You live dangerously, don't you?
Wait, what?
I know, a much safer and more lucrative investment than bonds. Here, see for yourself. Give me a call about it sometime. Have a nice day.
Security, we have a situation here.
It's been happening in locations all around the city. We have agents out canvassing the area, searching for leads. But so far, they've come up short. We pulled the security footage from an investment broker earlier today.
This is our perpetrator, and she follows the same MO in every case. She contacts a prospective bond buyer and tells him or her that he or she will lose everything they invested.
She goes on to suggest that she knows of safer, more lucrative investment options, and then she leaves behind a pamphlet and instructs the would-be buyers to reconsider their purchase and to consider investing with her instead.
A safer and more lucrative investment option than bonds? Clearly she doesn't understand risk and potential reward, unless she does understand risk and reward and is trying to deceive people. This has to be the work of misinformation. Devious.
Sir, with your permission, I'd like to double our manpower. We can bring in additional agents from surrounding boroughs and I'll authorize overtime for
No, that won't be necessary. If my suspicion is correct, there's only one man that can bring down misinformation. Miss Moneynickel, I need you to locate...
I've already located him, sir, and we're establishing contact now.
When it comes to personal finance, there's a lot to consider. And on this episode of No-Frills Money Skills, I'll tell you everything there is to know about... Oops, sorry guys, I've got to take this.
Bertelson, sorry to intrude on you like this, but we have a situation and we need your help. Misinformation is wreaking havoc in the bond market. She's spreading bad investment advice, and we need you to stop her.
Misinformation? Devious. Of course I'll help. I'll need you to send me everything you have on her, and I may need some material support.
I'll get you anything you need. Stand by for further instructions.
Well, in light of recent developments, on today's episode of No-Frills Money Skills, we're going to learn about investing in bonds, and we'll try to take care of misinformation along the way. A bond is much like a loan. It is a debt instrument, like an IOU. When you buy a bond, you are lending money to a government or corporation. For example, a bond issuer may use your money to fund a project, and in return, pay you interest. Interest is the price of using someone else's money. Bond prices move opposite the market interest rate. For example, suppose the yield on other investments rises relative to bonds. Bond holders may want to sell their bonds to get higher yields elsewhere. To attract buyers, bond prices will come down. This, in effect, increases the yield on bonds. All levels of government issue bonds, and so do corporations. Often, when people use the term bond, they are including other debt instruments as well. Just remember that debt instruments like U.S. government-issued Treasury bills and Treasury notes are usually shorter-term assets than bonds. In fact, corporations issue bonds that may take up to 30 years to mature when the investor is paid the last interest payment and initial dollar investment. One way in which bonds vary is whether they are coupon or non-coupon bonds. Investors purchase newly issued coupon bonds at a dollar amount called the face or par value. The investor receives interest payments for a set time, usually semi-annually or annually until the bond matures. At the end of the term, the investor receives the initial payment back with the final interest payment, assuming the bond issuer has the funds. Many bondholders use the interest payments as income, for example, in retirement. Zero coupon bonds are sold at a price lower than their face value because the buyers receive all of their return or interest when the bond matures. For example, one might buy a $600 bond with the understanding that it will be worth $1,000, say 10 years in the future. In the bond market, bond prices change with market interest rates, investors' preferences for asset types, and the creditworthiness in the company issuing the bond. Bonds, like U.S. Treasury Series I and EEE bonds, allow investors to make purchases right from their paycheck or online. They offer a great opportunity to save for retirement or for college. These low-risk bonds are available in denominations from $25 or more to the penny. You could buy a bond for, say, $37.50. Other Treasury securities are available starting at $100 and can be purchased in $100 increments. There are various features of Treasury securities to consider. For example, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, or TIPS, is a type of bond that provides protection from inflation. If inflation rises, the principal of the bond is adjusted upward and vice versa. The semi-annual interest rate is applied to the adjusted principal, helping the asset maintain its value. In many cases, there are tax benefits if the money is used for educational purposes. If two bonds, identical in every way, were offered by different issuers, any difference in the interest paid on the bonds would reflect the risk that the issuer might default on the bonds, that is, fail to repay the initial investment. If the government or company issuing the bonds has strong credit and assets to back up the bonds they issue, there is little risk. If the issuer doesn't have strong credit or assets, the risk of default, not paying the money back, is higher. Therefore, the coupon and bond price are determined in large part by risk. Come on, I know where we can learn even more about risk and potential reward.
It's important to have an investment plan and understand risk before buying any financial instrument. Investors face different types of risk, but risk is basically the uncertainty that an investment will gain or even retain its value. Generally, the higher the risk of loss of principal for an investment, the greater the potential reward. And conversely, the lower the risk of loss of principal for an investment, the lower the potential reward. A risk pyramid gives a general idea of how investments compare to one another. Take a look at the various investment options on the pyramid to see the relationship between risk and potential reward. At the top of the pyramid, with the highest risk and highest potential for return, are commodities, followed by antiques and collectibles, real estate, stocks, mutual funds, corporate bonds, treasury securities or government bonds, certificates of deposit, savings accounts, and at the bottom of the pyramid, with the lowest risk and lowest potential for return, are cash and checking accounts. Secure investments like FDIC-insured savings and checking accounts do not offer a high potential for reward because they are essentially free of risk. At the other extreme, you find commodities such as oil, gold, or livestock. The prices of commodities are more volatile, that is, they change frequently. So the potential for risk of loss of principal is high for commodities, but the potential for return is also high.
As you can see, bonds are among the safest investments on the pyramid. Misinformation definitely needs to get her facts straight.
Bertelson, the documents you requested are being transmitted now. You'll have them in just a few moments.
Got him.
I'm sure you're aware of the gravity of this situation. Keep me informed of your progress.
Bonds? Are you serious? You'll lose everything. I know, a much safer and more lucrative investment than bonds. Here, see for yourself.
Lose everything. Safer and more lucrative than bonds? What is she up to? What's this?
Suspect has been located. Transmitting coordinates now.
Gotcha. Time to shut down misinformation for good.
I have been trying to get people's attention about the folly of investing in bonds, and it has worked marvelously in many cases so far. Today, I am here to unveil my very own investment company and take deposits from investors of $1,000 per share. Get out your mobile banking devices. You won't want to miss out on this opportunity. Investments in my company will be safer and more lucrative than bonds. And from a practical standpoint...
What does your company provide?
Well, I just said.
What's the risk that you won't be able to pay back your investors?
Of course we will be able to pay
safer
back.
and more lucrative than bonds?
It will be safer.
I don't think that's possible.
Your information doesn't seem to add up.
It does add up.
Have you ever seen a risk pyramid?
Well, of course I've seen a risk pyramid.
Stop right there, misinformation. These people have heard enough of your bad advice and your ill-conceived scheme. You haven't even completed the initial paperwork to open an investment company. This ends now.
And, my dear, this is only the beginning.
Well, we foiled misinformation's plans for today, but we didn't put her away for good, and something tells me she'll be back. Remember, the best defense against misinformation is information, and the more you know about the risk and potential reward of investing, the more informed and safer you'll be. I'm Chris Bertelson, and I'll see you next time.